Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be traveling to the United States for a meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. This meeting comes in the first 1 month of Donald Trump taking office. And if the first 20 days of him in office are anything to go by, then trade and immigration-related issues are expected to top the agenda. But to get a better sense of the issues that could come up in the meeting between the two leaders, I have with me Catherine Hadda, who is a senior visiting fellow at CSIS. She's also served as one of the U.S. diplomats in India in the past. Many thanks, Catherine, for speaking with NDTV. So first, I want you to give us a sense of the broad areas of convergence and divergence that you see between the two sides currently.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Ma. It's a pleasure being here, and hello to all your viewers as well. Namaste. I would say let's start with the areas of convergence. Firstly, there's the personal convergence between President Trump and Prime Minister Modi, which we saw during President Trump's first term. And they clearly get along on a personal level, so that even when they had disagreements on substantive issues like trade, it didn't disrupt the whole relationship. And I think that will continue. For convergence, I think we'll see more cooperation on defense and security issues, notably through the Quad, but also bilaterally, and other regional issues such as that. And even though, for example, we may see some changes, like fewer references directly to climate change, I think cooperation on areas such as energy will continue. Health will probably continue. So there's a lot of important stuff that things that can be done on the positive agenda. And in terms of the Quad, I believe the president has already agreed to attend the summit in India, which at a leader's level, the first Trump administration had done a lot to revive the Quad and make it a very effective organization, but it was only elevated to leader level discussions in the Biden administration. So that's notable. I believe that this is something the administration believes is of value and will take forward. I do think you noted that Prime Minister Modi is here in the first month of the Trump administration. I believe he's the third leader only to meet with the president in this administration. And we also know that the two leaders talked by phone before the inauguration even to go over their bilateral agenda. So all that is very positive. In terms of areas of divergence, as you say, obviously trade is a major one. And because India has a rather large trade surplus with the United States, it is in line to get retaliatory tariffs that the president has promised for trade partners that maintain a surplus with us. And for that reason, I think there'll be a lot of discussion in this meeting to bring that surplus more into balance.
The manner in which U.S. President Donald Trump has been raising the issue of trade surplus with other countries, is that an issue that is going to be brought up with India as well, considering that there is a trade surplus in favor of India in the U.S. India trade context?
I think it's almost definitely an issue that President Trump will raise. And I think Prime Minister Modi will be prepared, even in your budget that was just announced. For example, there's a proactive lowering of tariffs on motorcycles. The Harley-Davidson tariffs were something that President Trump highlighted a lot during the first term. So I think there's, nothing's 100% certain in life. Nothing's 100% certain in life, but I think this is just about 100% certain. It will be a subject for discussion because India has a trade surplus with the United States.
And what are the ways do you see that the U.S. or rather the Trump administration would want this trade imbalance to be addressed?
I think large purchase items such as petroleum, oil, and also defense equipment, which also feature into core pillars of the Trump agenda. So I think those are very likely. I would say agricultural goods. Agricultural goods have in the past been a subject of discussion. India had slapped some retaliatory tariffs on U.S. agricultural products during the first round of trade disagreements during Trump 1. So I think, if India could increase, tariff imports of those items as well, medical equipment, there's some historical issues between our countries on trade.
And there's been an announcement of a 25% of tariff on the imports of steel and aluminum to the US. How do you see India respond this time around? Because the last time around in 2018, India had hit back with a reciprocal tariff on 28 US products.
I think to the extent that the two leaders cannot, for example, set a timeline of talks on trade, because the tariffs are already taking place globally. So for India to get a carve out from that will take a negotiated agreement, I believe. So I think it's really up to the Indian government whether to put on retaliatory tariffs or not. My guess is, maybe they'll be just put on with a notice. We really hope for a rapid negotiation to get all these tariffs down for both of our countries. But the likelihood really is more a matter of the Indian government's decision.
Just before Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States, we've seen the first batch of illegal immigrants being deported to India on a US military plane, and visuals of them in handcuffs being shackled has really upset people in India. Now, how do we see this issue being addressed? Will there be some sort of messaging from the top level of humane treatment, even to those who are being deported? Or does a matter of this nature get addressed at the level of the officials? And I would also want to understand from you that this kind of treatment of those who were deported is seen even when India has said that it is willing to take back any person, any Indian who's illegally staying in any part of the world, and 18,000 is the figure that has been put out in the media, at least for the United States. So how does this issue get addressed of at least a humane treatment of these people?
Well, it's a good question. I find it hard to believe that Prime Minister Modi wouldn't at least raise it. It is notable that even the opposition, which raised the issue in Parliament, I saw Sakshi Tharoor, for example, talk about even the opposition recognizes it's the right of the United States to demand that any immigrant in the United States would be present legally, they be documented. So I think there is a large agreement about that. You've put your finger on part of the problem, which is that this perception of unfair treatment. And I imagine it will be raised at the leaders level, but in answer to your question, resolved at a lower level. But the number of 20,000 is an interesting number, because if you do research, which I've done, the numbers of undocumented Indians, the estimates, no one knows for sure how they are, how many there are, but the official US government estimated for this year that I saw was 2.2 lakh. And there's a study by the Pew Research Institution, which added in surveys, to the official data and said the number could be as high as 7.25 lakh. So now we're considering many orders of magnitude more deportations. And if there is a perception of unfair treatment, or someone got snared who argues they are legally, or any of those things, that could add to the pressures of the Indian government to respond. I would say you can get ahead of this issue. There's no doubt that we should all be opposed, for example, to the kinds of traffickers who encourage undocumented Indians to make that dangerous trek into the United States, over the Canadian border, over the Mexican border. We can jointly go after people like that, and we should. And also there's a role for public education campaigns working together in India to inform people of the risks and the law, the importance of maintaining a documented status in the United States. I think that's doable. And I would hope that would be an announcement, the kind of announcement that would come out of a meeting like this.
And my final question to you is with regards to the anti India rhetoric we've seen. In fact, normalize Indian hate is something that is very disconcerting. Do you see this issue being addressed as well at the level of the top leaders?
Well, first of all, I just have to say on a personal level, it's abhorrent to see any rhetoric like that. And those of us who know the NRI community in the United States, we know how much of a contribution it has made to the American IT sector, but to American society, to American communities. It is the best educated and the wealthiest minority group in the United States right now. So we can all deplore that kind of statement for NRIs or for any group. Again, I think we have to separate the rhetoric of individuals and call it out for what it is. And again, I think it may be raised, but I also think we have a very large agenda between our countries. And several years ago, when I first started working with India, it was possible for one issue, even in a poor and very sensitive issue, to derail the entire relationship. And I hope we've moved beyond that. We have to call out things we disagree with or find objectionable. But we have to keep our eye on the bigger prize, I believe, which is a flourishing U.S. India relationship. And I think it has potential in this administration and in future administrations to keep growing and flourishing. And I hope it will.
Catherine Hadder, many thanks for speaking with NDTV.
Thank you, Maha. It was a pleasure.